You ask me questions, so I like to bring you some good and helpful information. That's just what I like doing because I care for you guys. Hey, what is going on? I hope everybody is doing all right out there. I am Celos, and I want to welcome you guys to my channel, Pay Yourself Back, where the focus is always on mental awareness and spiritual wellness, guys. And part of that spiritual wellness is doing something for you, giving something to you. You do for everybody else, you give to everybody else. How about giving something to you? Pay yourself back, guys. I know it may not be as easy as it sounds right now with what's going on, but try to do the best that you can, guys. It is not, unfortunately, such a bright and sunny day here in South Florida, guys. This is the second day of this kind of gloomy. The sun is going in and out, but it's the second day of rain. Yesterday, it came down pretty dadgum hard. So today is supposed to be another round of this rain. And, you know, we are nearing hurricane season, and it's already starting to show. Today, I want to talk to you guys about flooding here in South Florida. Now, I'm not an engineer. I'm not a meteorologist. I just like to bring you guys the information based upon my experience. And I do these videos, guys, and I just share my experience with you. So before I get into that, guys, let me just say a little bit about me. I moved here to South Florida from Washington State in 2017, and so far, so good. I have a lot of videos out there that I've done on my experience here in South Florida, guys, and I'm a knowledge seeker. I love knowledge. I love learning something new every day. And if you plan on moving to Florida, or if you plan on moving to anywhere, I would highly recommend that you guys make it your business to find out something about where you live. I haven't stopped doing my research. It is very interesting. I know people don't always agree with what I have to say, but that's just life, guys. I am subscribed to a lot of other YouTubers' channels, and sometimes, you know, I don't agree with everything they have to say, but what I do, respect their content. And as long as we can agree to disagree, you respect my content, I'm cool with that. Because one thing I would tell you, if you're not a YouTuber or you're not into some type of video production, see, YouTubers, in my opinion, we're just little mini cinematographers, you know, and it is not easy, at least for me, to put a video together. I mean, it's getting easier, but there's a little bit of difficulty in doing that, guys. If you don't have the gift of gab, and you might think that you have the gift of gab, to look in that camera and the camera not say nothing back to you and just to talk and talk and talk, plus editing and spending hours to do that, it is time consuming, but it is rewarding at the same time, guys. I really enjoy doing it, and I really appreciate it because you guys, for the most part, most of you guys are very positive and you give me good feedback, and I really, really appreciate it. So if this is your first time, you enjoy the content, I would highly recommend you subscribing to my channel. And again, I can't say it enough. You guys who support me, I just want to say thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. So with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and get into the video. I'm going to talk about, let me give you the facts about some things here in South Florida in terms of flooding and things of that nature. So in case you didn't know, Florida designates hurricane season to be the 1st of June to the 30th of November every year. Doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be a hurricane, but that's just those times that they have designated as hurricane season. And so what happens during that time is that you get a lot of rain. But what I have noticed, guys, is that it doesn't have to be hurricane season for it to rain really hard, like torrential rain. And that's something that I had to get used to when I got here, because I'm not comparing Washington to Florida, but in Washington, for those of you guys who don't know, Washington State, you get a lot of rain. It rains between 5 and 7 months out of the year, but it's just kind of like an annoying mist rain all day long. You know, it's gloomy and things like that. But here in Florida, at least in South Florida, when it rains, it beats down. And if you get those type of rains where it starts to rain at 3 o'clock in the morning and it rains all throughout the day, you're going to have a fair amount of flooding. just to let you know. I'm not trying to scare you all, because I know a lot of you guys are planning on moving here to Florida, and it is a good thing. I mean, but I like to share my experience with you, because there's some things that you may not know about Florida. And it's not to say anything bad. I would say this, in my opinion, from what I have seen, probably the most affected areas of flooding are those areas that are near the intracoastal and definitely near the beach. Now, CeeLos, why would those areas be the most affected? Well, because for one, as you know, there is such a thing here, and anywhere where you're going to be around bodies of water and ocean and stuff like that, you have king tide, you have high tide, and you have low tide. Now, guys, I don't know the scientific aspect of it. All I know is it has something to do with the moon rotating around the earth, and there's a gravitational pull when it goes in certain areas. So when they say it's at 1 o'clock, it's going to be high tide, you know, it's going to be king tide. That is just the amount of water that is coming in. You know what I'm saying? You can just picture in your head, high tide, king tide is going to be a lot of water. It's going to be coming in, you know, so on and so forth, all the way down to low tide. So this is what happens. So according to the EPA, they say that Florida receives between 40 and 60 inches of rain every year. Now, some places are different than others. Some places receive more, some places receive less. The interesting thing about Florida is that there's an intracoastal, which is a waterway that runs in between, it's like about 380 something miles on this side of Florida, lengthwise. So there are inlets from the Atlantic Ocean that come in and incorporate into the intracoastal. And so you say, well, how would the intracoastal get these king tides and high tides? Well, that's what happened as you have these inlets that come in. A prime example of this, guys, is the New River in Fort Lauderdale. And I did a video on the New River, taking a boat ride on the New River. So go check that out. Goes out to the Port Everglades. The Atlantic Ocean is right there. So that's where you get a lot of your water coming in right there. That's one inlet. And they're all through Florida. Now let's talk about some elements that play a key role when it comes down to flooding in Florida, especially in South Florida. Again, I talk about those areas along the intracoastal and along the beach. So what I noticed when I first got here, especially in the Hollywood area where it's near the intracoastal, Young Circle and back that way, you guys don't know where that's at if you don't live here. But anyway, so I noticed that it rains real hard and you have these big puddles of water. Now, some years ago, from what I've been told, I wasn't here then, but I've been told that it would flood so bad until it would actually flood in these people's homes. I mean, the water would come that, and I have seen it up to the point to where it's at the door of some of these homes. Now, how could that happen? Well, again, not to get too much into the technical aspects of how this thing works, but you have these drains, storm drains. We all heard of them, right? A couple different kind of drains, storm drains, excuse me. You have a home, and then you have a sidewalk, and then you have a patch of grass right there, and then you have the road. In that patch of grass, that's called a swell. You have a storm drain right there. So these storm drains, for the most part, are gravity fed. And where you think they go to? They either go to, depending on where you live, they go to a lake, a river, or they go to the intracoastal. Well, in this case, when I talk about the closer you are to the intracoastal, those areas affected with the flooding. Well, why? Because when it rains, you got to think, the intracoastal fills up as well. So if it rains real hard and these storm drains become overwhelmed because they're trying to gravity feed this water to the intercoastal, and it goes through the seawall through a pipe, of course, and dumps into the intercoastal. If that pipe, wherever it's located, is overwhelmed by water, the water level is over that, then that water is going to come right back. Now, luckily, hopefully in a lot of areas you have baffles on it that prevent the water from the intercoastal coming back into the storm drain and going back into people's, to residential communities. However, if it's just constantly raining, dumping down for 10 hours a day, just raining, that water, even if the baffles prevent the water from coming in, it has nowhere to exit out of. So it's going to puddle up on the road to the point to where, like I say again, it has gotten as high as it starts to go into people's homes. So from my understanding, there are several high flood areas, and in these areas, for the most part, they have what is called a pump station or a lift station. And the best way I can describe that is being like a huge tank, a deep tank. But it's not a tank, it's like metal or steel, it's like a concrete tank. Goes sometimes 20, 30 feet, maybe deeper. But what happens, the storm water goes into this lift station, has a pump or two in there, and once the water reaches a certain level, the pumps activate and force the water out into a lake, or into, in this case, like I said, the intracoastal. And so you start to see the levels start to recede and go down. It's a pretty unique process, man. Stormwater, and you know, we are truly blessed. I mean, you got some smart people out there who engineer and design these types of things. But it's pretty interesting and pretty intriguing to know and to learn about these things as well. So just another little tidbit. If you plan on moving here, I would, and I don't know too much about this, guys, but I know they have flood zones. I would consult your realtor, and I know I have some realtors who are subscribed to my channel. So if you guys want to leave a comment and kind of add to that and give a little bit of information about that as well, whether it's yay or nay, I'm pretty sure you have to disclose that information if those certain flood zones. But that's another thing. And also your insurance, your homeowner's insurance. You might want to look into whatever agency you have your insurance with. You might want to look at those guys as well. Maybe they can help you out. And they have these zones. That's just public information, guys. You can look at that. But something to consider that you might not know, and I had to learn too. But it is a very important thing, guys. And this is kind of off the subject, but there are mandatory hurricane evacuation zones that you might want to look into as well. And this is just kind of adding to, it's not part of the video and subject wise, but it's kind of adding something I've just thought about. You know, I am in a, I'm pretty sure, I haven't checked this, but I'm pretty sure I'm in a mandatory hurricane evacuation zone because the beach is just right there. So I would love to live in some of these nice areas and buy and own one of these $1 million homes. But, you know, the thing I like about Florida, when it comes down to those type of situations with hurricanes, you have plenty of time. You're notified way ahead of time. Like we had Hurricane Dorian last year, you were notified way ahead of time. So if it comes down to you having to evacuate those areas, you have time. Now, whether you have somewhere to go once you evacuate those areas is another issue. But I'm pretty sure if you can afford to buy $1 million home or a condo on the water or Key Biscayne or like the Brickell Key or somewhere like that, I'm pretty sure you know you got enough money to buy you like a little house somewhere where you can go and hang out for a couple of weeks or whatever the case may be. But just my little spiel, guys. Again, I like bringing you these videos and just kind of sharing my information with you. Something to consider if you plan on moving here to Florida. And again, I have this great place to live, but you have to be mindful of some of the things that you probably are not going to think about. I think a lot of people think about hurricanes and things like that. Hurricanes don't bother me, it never did. Otherwise, I wouldn't have moved here. But there are other things, other factors that you have to think about and include in the equation of moving here as well, other than hurricanes. But just my little spiel, my little 2 cents to you guys. I thought that it would, you know, I wish I had known, but luckily I hadn't bought that house yet. And I'm gonna do a video because I know that people have been asking me about the apartment situation, and I'm gonna do a video on that one, guys. But I hope that you guys have gotten some out of the video. I hope that I've answered some questions or addressed some things that you may have been thinking in your head. If you have any more questions, you know, just you always leave me a comment, guys, and I'll do my best to get back with you and answer those questions. I am located, guys, just because a lot of people ask me just general questions about Florida. So just to put it into perspective for you guys, I am located in Southeast Florida. I'm in between Fort Lauderdale and Miami. So my, so to speak, area of expertise, not really, but is this area, Broward County. I know a little bit about Miami-Dade, not too much, but Broward County, if you ask me questions about certain things, I can probably tell you more. But if you ask me questions about the western side of Florida, you know, on that side, I think they have what, Tallahassee, Tampa, Sarasota, I think, even up north, places like Orlando, Jacksonville, Pensacola. I have no idea about those places, guys. I'm just being honest with you. But if you ask me something about South Florida in this area, I got you. I got you. But up there and over there, I can't tell you nothing about those areas, guys. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in to Pay Yourself Back, guys. Again, guys, if you have any questions, you know, just drop me a comment. If you like the video, give me a big thumbs up, guys. Subscribe to the channel. And with that being said, be well, my friend. Silos out, baby. One more time.